Um, well, we'll get started. I'll give you a little history. Trevor wanted me to give you a little history about who I am, what I've done, and I started a swim team back in the 70s. One of the things that people said it was the first black or inner city swim team. That's not true. When I started a program in 71, there were at least four other inner city swim teams in Philadelphia, YMCAs and rec departments and community. I was coming out of college and I started a team that was going to be unique. That looked at the landscape. I saw what most people were doing, and I wanted to do something different. One of the things that motivated me was that there were great swimmers before I came along, but most of them were recruited out of black neighborhoods or inner city neighborhoods and were asked to swim on an all-white team. And consequently, they never became role models in their own community. If you weren't in the swimming community, you never knew who they were. So I wanted to stop that. And the other thing is I wanted to start a team that was going to be nationally recognized. So I had no intentions on being local recreation, just to get kids out of trouble. I also wanted to get guys out of the gang. I started primarily for young men to get them out of the gangs. We had quite a few gangs in the facility I was at. My first swim team back in the 70s was called SAYRE Aquatic Club. That's SAYRE. And we functioned under that up until 1980. So when I started my program, those were the goals, was to get to nationals as quick as we can. And I started. Hello.
Yeah, you're good. We can still hear you.
Oh, okay. All right. I started a 5-year plan, and of course, in 5 years, I didn't reach it. It took quite a while for me to get my first swimmer to junior nationals, which was around 1983. So starting in 71, taking kids out of swim lessons and educating them in the sport, teaching them strokes, proper technique, teaching them how to train, dry land, and at the same time educating their parents. In my program, we encourage parents to attend all practices and watch the practices. They may not be directly on the deck depending upon the facility, but they're there watching and hearing everything that I did. Because I didn't want the child to go home and said I beat him up, and the parent came in to beat me up. I wanted the parents to see why I was beating them up while I was beating them up. And if they wanted to come down, they could get beat up at the same time. So that was my philosophy. So we started from scratch. We started swimming entry-level meets out of Philadelphia, mainly in Pennsylvania, until we got to a point where I knew we were going to have some double B, A times before I entered any meets in Philadelphia. I wanted the kids to be confident about who they were and what they could do before I swam in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is pretty tough, if you know Middle Atlantic swimming at the time in the 70s, with Schulberg, Bob Madsen, George Breen, Frank Keefe. All those people were pretty tough, and some tough teams. And if I had to be competitive with them, I wanted my kids to be mentally right as well as physically right. So after we qualified, went to juniors, Indianapolis, I think it was in the summer of '84, long course. And at that time, I had moved to another pool. And this is when we officially became PDR swimming, 1980. It's over. And from that point on, the program started to grow. We started to get more athletes to compete and to think at the national level. We had a couple of young men. Really, our first national ranking was in the 70s. I had a relay, 12 and under relay, that was 8th in the nation. So that really was our first major accomplishment. And that was long course. And that record was pretty tough. Then I had another group come along and set another national age group record, 11 to 12 boys, medley relay record. That stood for quite some time. Then this team from North Baltimore broke it. I happened to get a phone call from somebody, anonymous, telling me they broke our record. And I said, okay, I got you. Sound like Murray Stevens on the phone, but I don't know. But
Wasn't me.
so that kind of got us rolling. And so one of the things in my 5-year plan, I'm kind of skipping around, just trying to talk and give you as much background information on me and what we did, was to create a culture of success and achievement and hard work. And that was it. If you couldn't do that, then I didn't keep you. I don't care who you were. If your parents didn't participate, I didn't keep you. It was a pretty tough program. People thought it was a little too tough for the neighborhoods I was working in, but I was a math teacher in school also, and I just felt that if you set the bar high, somebody's going to reach for it. And that's exactly what happened. So we went through the 80s swimming pretty tough, some junior national qualifying times, a couple other records, top 10 rankings. In 1992, my first swimmer qualified for Olympic trials, a young man named Jason Webb, and he was 16 years old at that time. He was no more than 5'8", but if you saw him in the water, you would think he was 6'2". He swam big. He's really swam big, and he was pretty tough. So that was breaking into national rankings at that time with his swim at Olympic trials. Then the team really took off from there. Sometimes we took as much as 15 kids to nationals in our program. I think in Michigan, we're third place. Junior nationals at Michigan, junior nationals, short course. I took about 6 boys to nationals in Minnesota. I think we ranked in the top 10 individually there. And 1996, I took, I think 2 or 3 swimmers to Olympic trials. Jason Webb went back. I took a young man named Michael Norman. It was a unique story. He moved from New York to come train with us. He was a breaststroker. Turned out to be a pretty good breaststroker as well. 2000, I think I took 1 swimmer to Olympic trials, young lady, and named Brielle White. And she got a night swim there. We didn't make the team. And then I had another swimmer, a kid named Brian Walters, swam for me. He went to Northwestern. Once he went to Northwestern, he went back to train with Tom Dolan at Curlberg, and he got 3rd at Olympic trials. His daughter's swimming for me now, and he's on my board and one of my assistant coaches. So that's pretty much what I did in swimming. It's just kind of summary. And people want to know how a movie got made about what I did. A young man from Harvard University was doing a story on why there were so few minorities in the sport of swimming. He was traveling the country and interviewing people, different teams, different programs. Everywhere he went, he said my name came up. So he had to call me. He called me, told me what he was doing, and I said I like that. And he said it was going to be for the New York Times, and I really liked that. But I invited him to come to Philly to see the program for himself, and he said he didn't have time. The story was getting ready to go to press, and he just wanted some information. So I gave some of our achievements. I said, you can call United States Swimming to verify it. But at the time, United States Swimming didn't have your racial makeup on the application form. So I said, they really don't know what the kids are, who they are, what nationality they are, but the records are there, our achievements are there. So we hung up. That next week he called me, changed his mind and said he was coming to Philadelphia to see us. And I said, great. So he came when we had a big age group meet, PSDS, which was held at LaSalle at the time. He watched the kids swim. We had a great meet, swam well. And I really didn't know he was at the meet because I didn't know what he looked like. At the end of the meet, he introduced himself and told me, you know, he enjoyed what he saw and he was heading back home. When he got back home, he called me and he said that we were going to be featured in the article. And I was nice. I said, okay, very good. I said, I thought the article was coming out right away. He said, no, we changed it. So this young man followed us for a year and went to junior nationals with us out in Cleveland State that year. We didn't have a great meet, but we performed pretty good. And we ended up in the magazine section of New York Times. And from that, I got several phone calls. People wanted to do a movie. I turned them down because I didn't like the storyline. And then around 2007, another young man read the same article and wanted to do a screenplay. So I said, okay. And the rest was history. A movie got made. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much who I am, what I've done, and pretty much achieved the goals that I set out to do. We took kids out of neighborhood thinking, you know, that this is all their world, this is all the world was about, expose them to other things, expose them to different racial, social, economic groups, and just kind of change their thought process. Not only them, but most of their parents changed as well. I did a lot of psychological stuff in the sport. For me, psychology played a heavy role and it still does. So that was it. That's who I am. That's what I've done. And anybody have questions, I feel like I think I would be more informative or helpful in knowing why you wanted to boot onto this clinic, what you really want to hear, and I can go from there. If that's all right, Trevor?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So Katie, if you don't mind, I'll go first and then I'll let you ask.
Oh, sure.
So Jim, one of the things I wanted to ask you about was what do you think is the importance of diversity amongst coaches? Do you really, you know, because one of the things that obviously it's in the media right now, Black Lives Matter. Do you think that, you know, how important do you feel that diversity amongst the coaching community is?
I think it's very important, and not just for African Americans. I think it's important, period. Because one of the things in our program, a couple of white kids on my team said, as they went to meets, they were approached about, why are you swimming on this black team? And they said, well, our team is not black. You know, it was very diverse. They said, we have Asians, we have Hispanics, we have blacks, we have whites. We had a mixture. And that was true in the 90s. Once we got to the 90s, we went from 85% African-American to 50-50. People were tearing the door down to get in. So the complexion of my team changed tremendously. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to represent Philadelphia and the demographics of Philadelphia. I just wanted anybody who wanted to swim fast. Now, as far as your question goes on diversity, I think it goes beyond swimming. It just goes beyond people communicating and finding out who someone else is. I realized that at a camp, we did a outreach camp in Colorado, and we had a lot of, matter of fact, it was the diversity outreach camp. Coaches were invited at that time, and there were some girls there from North Carolina swimming. I think they were from Raleigh swim team, and their coaches came. And they brought to me, same thing you're asking me. They said, well, Coach Ellis, we really didn't feel that there was a necessity for us to understand what the black kids are going through. We never even gave it any thought. And well, that's good in one way that you're treating everybody the same, but I feel that if you don't know the culture someone's coming from and you're demanding something else and you wonder why you're not being successful, then I think that not knowing what they go through, what their values are, what their beliefs are, I think you're going to have a hard time selling being successful. Swimming, I feel that there's a pool of talent that's not being reached in America. And that's why I chose to stay in the urban environment. I felt that I can find swimmers that most people would never get, wouldn't take the time to develop, and I felt I would have an edge on a lot of people, and it did work. But like I said, it blew up. We became a very diverse program. So we had, and I had to understand everybody across the board, and I coached them accordingly. Does that help you there?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Katie, go ahead.
Thank you. You kind of led into what my question was going to be. You've had a lot of success with changing people's thought processes, and I was wondering if you could go into some of the steps and some of the hurdles that you had and how you overcame them, and how, if any, help was the diversity in getting to changing that thought process.
Again, I think it's because it was my belief, who I am, and what I was trying to do, and what I knew my task as a coach was, and that no matter who you were, when you came on the team, I'll let you know the team, the dynamics of the team, and yes, you have a black coach, and people are going to say this and they're going to say that. I put it right on the table, and some people were like, and I said, yeah, I said it. Yes, I said it. And that opened the door for them to say whatever they had to say and get their feelings out. Because I don't believe you can extract maximum effort from anybody unless there's a connection. And I made sure that I had a connection with not only the swimmers, but the parents. This is why I encourage parents to be at my practices. I have parents meetings once a month, and we discuss anything at the meetings. The meetings were mandatory. So anything that was on your mind could be discussed at the parents meeting. I would be at every meeting, and you could hear it directly from me. So I kind of laid the groundwork about that. I laid the groundwork about racial issues. Nothing is taboo here. We will talk about anything and everything. And because you have to be comfortable, and you have to trust me that I'm going to be here to do the best for your child and give them 150% maximum effort, but you have to do the same thing. As an educator, and I used to be out on the speaking tour, I created what I call the triangle of accountability, where the swimmer is accountable to the coach and the parents. The parents are accountable to the coach and the swimmer, and the coach is accountable to the swimmer and the parent. And without that, without those three pieces, and what it creates, if you connect them, it creates a triangle. Triangle is one of the strongest shapes that you have in the world. Every bridge, you see nothing but triangles. Triangles are everywhere. And again, I was a math teacher, so I went on that theory. But that's how it functioned in the program. And that's where I felt diversity was good. When I swam as a youngster, I swam on an all-white team. So I knew what it felt like. And it didn't bother me. I handled the situation. And then my high school team was all black. So I had the best of both worlds growing up when I was swimming. And I wanted to bring that to the table when I was coaching. So I think it helps to just kind of put more flavor into your program. If you're open to suggestions, you're open to problems. Because again, if you're recruiting kids from an urban environment, a lot of people don't understand. Some of these kids don't get love, affection, and attention. Some kids aren't even sitting down listening. Their parents aren't even listening to what they say. And I think that's across the board now as an educator. You throw a video game in front of them, parents go about their business. So I felt you could reach kids by crossing all those boundaries, laying it all on the table. Did that help? Was it okay?
I have, okay. You mentioned something about parents' meetings being mandatory. how did you make that happen? I'm experiencing in at least the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, you always get the same group of people at parents meeting, and it's really hard to get everybody involved as much as we can. Any tips that you can give us out there and get somehow to the parents that they need to understand they're part of it as much as the children are?
We take attendance. We take attendance. We see a pattern, and then we call them on it. And I call them on it in front of the other parents in the parent meeting. Simple as that. I didn't want to hear any excuses. You had excuses. You had to come meet with me in my office. But parents had to be accountable to me in the program. And if you weren't, then we have to discuss whether your child belonged in our program or not.
Yeah, one of the things that we've noticed in this LSC, and Sergio, if you want to chime in from the NCAA side, you can too. Something that we've noticed is that coaches that don't fit the norm, who aren't white, aren't male, typically are excluded from, or at least feel excluded from conversations and feel excluded from opportunities. What's your take on that? Do you still see that happening today? Do you feel like that's still going on? What do you think?
I mean, coaches don't fit the norm. I don't understand the question.
Coaches that aren't white, aren't male, aren't Catholic, aren't Christian, don't fit the quote unquote norm. What do you think?
I never gave it any thought. When I went to a swim meet, I was there to take care of business. I didn't care what anybody thought about who I was, or what they said to me, or anything. I think through my performances, I was accepted. I was on the international coaches trip list. I ran clinics. I did coaching for USA Swimming. Was heavily involved with the diversity outreach program. I was senior chair of Middle Atlantic Swimming at one time. I ran and coached at 6 zone all-star meets. And everywhere I went, I spoke my mind and said what I had to say. If I was dealing with parents, I dealt with parents when I was at zone all-star meets. Same way I dealt with my parents on my team. That was what I demanded. I had to be sure that everybody was going to be safe and everybody was going to perform to the max. I never felt threatened. I never felt that I was being left out of anything. As long as my swimmers were very well prepared and we went to take care of business at hand, I didn't let anything else bother me. So that wasn't an issue with me or my coaches and my coaching staff. I did use maybe something like that back in the 80s when I was getting a couple of coaches that were assigned by the city to me. They weren't coaches, they were just water safety instructors, which I made coaches. We would go to a meet, and I explained to them that everybody's going to dress the same. When they called for the coaches meeting or they wanted a head coach, no one was going to go from our team. And I said, what's going to happen? Someone's going to come over and they're going to approach you because you're white, thinking that you're the head coach. And they said, get out of here. Everybody knows you. I said, no, just watch. We'll sit around. And inevitably, every time it happened, they went to my work staff member before they came to me. And then when they pointed to me, just the look on their face was just priceless. But as far as that goes, that was it. I just showed them how people think, what they think. This guy can't be the head coach of the team. And other than that, we just went about our business. Our business was to swim fast. So I didn't let too much bother me, other than like trying to whoop your butt.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Jim? I mean, we got him for the next couple hours, so.
Couple hours. Okay.
Go ahead. Katie, you said you want to say something again? Go ahead.
Yeah,
The-
I think I
Yeah,
emailed you this question, Trevor, but you know, I've been in all different kinds of programs. I was actually a teacher in inner city Philly, and inner city Baltimore.
where at?
Sacred Heart, Third and Reed, South
Okay.
Philly.
All right.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. So I mean,
Tough area.
I've been in a lot of different situations, but the situation that I'm in right now, not a super diverse crew, a bunch of really nice kids. How can we sort of educate these kids about diversity when really it's not present to them?
Again, if you're recruiting and you're looking for minorities, African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, whatever's minority in your community, I just think that, like I said in the beginning, you let them know who you are as a person, what you expect from them, and the reality of the sport is still primarily all white sport, and our sport is based on performance. And if you get that point across, I think you'll be fine. I think maybe I should have said this when I opened up to questions. If you have a question for me, don't bite your tongue. Don't think you're going to insult or hurt me. You can't do that because nothing really gets done. If you try to pick and choose everything you say, I mean, some things you're just not going to say outright crazy. But I think if you're sincere about who you are, what you're selling, you'll be fine. And that's the way I went at it. Okay. Yeah, I'm a black man. You're white. This is it. This is the way it is. Okay. I'm a black man. You're Asian. This is it is. This is who you are. Okay. You have a problem with it, you know? Then first thing I ask is, why are you on my team? Why did you come here? Because I wasn't in no beautiful neighborhoods, trust me. And for someone to come in that didn't live in that neighborhood, I really wanted to know why, right off the bat. Why are you here? They tell me, and I said, okay, this is who I am. This is how we operate. This is what we do. And just lay it on the line. And like I said, too, this is another reason why the parent meetings were mandatory, because it gets people to understand, gets people to loosen up, gets people to start asking questions. And then you're there and you're entertaining the questions. You're putting yourself in the center and you're the focus, you're the coach, your program, and that's the way it is. So I'm open to anything and everything. And again, that's why I had the parent meetings. You know, at the end of 30 days, they see what's going on in the pool. They've been to a swim meet. This happened, that happened, and boom, let's talk about it. And so I think that's the best way. I think conversation, just like we're doing here now, I think is the number one key to it. I don't think there's anything tricky about it. It's the key to it. Yeah, I ran the same situation in the classroom, being a math teacher in high school and Philadelphia, teaching, you know, geometry, algebra, trig. Most kids never saw a black man teaching before anyways. So on parent night, I had some very interesting questions, especially when the kid didn't get an A.
I'll say something. I agree with you that we have to be able to say what you want to say, but the reality is that you can't. You're a black man, but I'm a white man, and when I came to, I felt this. I've been feeling discrimination, maybe less and less the last few years, but since 1987 that I came to this country.
Right.
And I've been in many situations, and even now, if I open my mouth about what I feel and what has happened to me, and what I will have probably some issues with people, you know.
Right.
I have to be very careful what I say and who I talk to. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, I've been, you know, you look at me and I'm white, I've been in Chicago walking with my wife and a stroller with my 2 children that they're blue eyes and blonde. And they've been called, get the F out of this country, you terrorist, and blah, blah, blah. And I've been in a bank for 5-6 hours holding in a chair because the manager wanted to give me my money that was in my bank because he thought that I was trying to steal the money from somebody else.
Absolutely right.
Harassed by the police, by many people, you know. So one of the things that you learn, because I grew up in a dictatorship in Spain.
Yeah.
And for us, but I never was taught about racism, you know, when I was a kid. For me, people was equally the same, you know.
Right.
But when I came to this country, it was not just about black people, you know. You know, I went to Bloomington, Indiana with that councilman.
Right.
And some of the things that I saw and some of the way people treated me because I couldn't speak English.
Yeah.
It's really not just Hispanic or people that look different, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to say
I agree with you 100%. What you're saying, and I understand what you're saying 100%, and what you're saying is 100% correct. When I say what you need to say, of course, the situation is going to demand that you say it right. That you're not going to get crazy and go overboard. But what you feel and what you've been experiencing is what I experienced as a black man. So when we talk about Black Lives Matter, for my generation, and I was protesting in the 60s when they killed Dr. Martin Luther King, and that's one reason I started a swim team, is that I didn't want to go to jail. I didn't want to get beat up. So I had to do something that was going to have an impact on people and make a difference. Swimming is what it was. I've been in banks and people look at me. You go in department stores, people look at you. And I understand exactly what you're saying. I have quite a few people from Brazil, South America, coming into our country and swimming for me. And we talk about that as well. We talk about it. We talk about how we navigate it. And most of the time, that's why they're swimming for me, because they feel much more welcome and comfortable in our environment than going to an all-white environment.
Sure.
So I understand what you're saying 100%.
But I think my point too is that you have to be very careful.
Yes. Yeah. You can't be blatant and crazy. Yeah.
Because I grew up being Catholic, forced to be Catholic because that was the reason for a dictator. And then when I realized things, I decided that I wasn't going to believe in God. I had my own way of thinking of things.
Right.
And I have to be very careful to how I express that to people. Even when my first daughter was born, people asked me, well, why are you going to teach your children if you don't believe in God? And depending on what I was working, I had to be very careful what I said. Because you have a funny accent, you look different, and now you don't believe in God, we have a problem here.
Yes.
And it's very interesting. I honestly don't know how to approach. I've coached kids from 44 different countries, black, Asian, and I think what you said, you treat people with respect, you talk with them, you accept everybody for the people that they are, you know. I think we have a common goal that swimming has changed our lives, you know. And
you see the conversation that you're having with me right now, this is a conversation that I have with every parent in my program. And like I said, I've had people from a lot of different places, a lot of different countries, Eastern European countries, like I said, South America, and discuss the same thing that you're discussing, you know, right now, Sergio. And you kind of help define what I said to the young lady to ask the question, in being, I don't want to use the word politically correct, but I'll use it, but something that's not going to send you or whoever you're talking to over the edge.
Sure. And
as coach, I think, have that talent to read who we're talking to and know the limitations of where we're at in the conversation, but you're still getting some of the things that you need to say out Of course, again, they may not like it. They may not respond right, but at least you said what you felt you need to say for that situation, and then you move on. But Sergio is on the other end of the scale. And I have some young swimmers that are Asian descent and background. And they realize, and we've talked about it just this summer, about Black Lives Matter. And I said, to me, it's not just black. I said, that's become a symbol, but it's become a symbol for culturally diverse America. It's become a symbol for all the people who come here are not Caucasian, not part of that power struggle. And at some point they feel that. And so we've had that discussion. So to me, I think this is a very important time. And as a coach, that level of awareness is important. And I hope this discussion brings that out, that it's not just African American. Sergio put it right in a nutshell. And I've had these conversations with kids that I've had from other countries come in and train with me, spend some time with me. And like they say, my pool was in the hood, deep in the hood. And I had white kids riding the subway, getting off and then walking 5 or 6 blocks just to get to the pool. And they clearly weren't from that neighborhood. They clearly were approached. I had to go out to the gangs that ran the neighborhood and explain to them who we were, what we were doing, and don't do that. Don't bring down what you're going to bring down on them. It was tough. It was a tough sell. That started in 1980, and when the team, again, people start finding their way to me. So what I had to deal with outside. And the same thing in traveling. I'll even kind of go there. In traveling in the early days, if I was going to a meet in Virginia or Maryland, I got the meet announcement, figured out who I was taking to the meets. I would drive on my own to Maryland or Virginia, to the facility, check it out, get the route, look at the routes, find a hotel, look at a hotel, look for a national chain, look for eating places. Most likely I'd try to stay at a hotel, it was full service. Then I could kind of get a room and have our meals served in a room. We weren't looking to sit in a restaurant, waiting to be served, not getting served. And we had to go back to final. Then I drive back home. I might do it again. Then when we went to the meet, everything worked like clockwork 99% of the time. So these are some of the things I went through because I didn't want to expose our kids or families to the wrong thing, the wrong environment. And even doing that, we still had some tough issues. We stayed at a national hotel going to our Junior Olympics outside of Philadelphia, and our rooms were trashed. They weren't ready. We went to the meet, swam, came back, they still weren't ready. We had to clean our own rooms. But just so happened, went to the USA Swimming Convention, and just guess what? President of that hotel chain was at the convention, and I was introduced to him, and I explained to him what happened. And I went back and got a letter, handed him a letter. Sent us a check, apologized, but that was rare. That was rare. And I'm saying that we didn't let that deter us from swimming. We went there to swim, shave, taper, we ready to go. But yeah, Sergio, you're right. And I have that conversation with, like I said, all different nationalities in my program.
I think we got to lead by example, because sometimes arguments, don't get us anywhere. I think
No, they don't.
By example, I know, for example, when I was at Bowls, the people think they're very privileged kids because they have to pay a lot of money to be there, the borders.
Right.
But we had people from all over the world. They had scholarships from their country. Some people had horrible parents that they didn't want them at home. Some people came from really bad situations. And I can tell you one thing. This is between 2007 and 2014 or 15 that I was there. 9 out of the 10 times that I was at the airport, with the kids flying somewhere for a meet. The white kids went through with no problem. All of us got profiled and got checked out, you know. And even if you try to ask why every time is this happening, oh, it's random, but it was never random.
No, it's not random.
And it's a very hard situation to be put every time, you know. I've been coming to this country for, you know, I'm a citizen now, but
Right.
you know how many times I've been in a room in customs, anywhere from 30 minutes to 3 hours, trying to question me who I am,
Right.
why I'm traveling to Spain or why I'm traveling to a international competition. So it's very hard. And I understand you guys have a long history, you know, and I'm just young here in this country, but it's happening to more people than just a certain
That's right.
ethnic group, you know.
That's right. That's right. And that's why when I traveled with an entourage of parents with me. We travel with a large entourage of parents. I take lawyers, I take doctors. We travel just because of that, you know, and we travel dressed the same way. We look like a group. There's a dress code when we traveled, so they would know this is a group coming through. And I was very specific about that as well. Khaki pants, blue shirt, and the guys wore ties. The girls could wear ties if they wanted to. If we were going somewhere cold or chilly, we'd have our parkas with as well. So we try to travel in such a way that they knew they were dealing with a group. And I think that cut down on a lot of the unnecessary frisking and pulling you over to the side. It cut down on some of that.
Thanks, Shane.
Good point. Good point.
I guess it's not a great question to ask, have you ever had a problem, but do you feel you have any problems now with getting into meets?
No. Basically, 99% of the time, I can pretty much get into a meet that it's not overcrowded. Some meets, I think they pick and choose, which is, I understand that, but I really never, not now. In the beginning, we did, it changed. The faster we swam, the more meets we got invited to. They saw who we were. We carried ourselves a certain way. As I said, just answering Sergio, we traveled a certain way. I wanted to have a certain image. Sergio also mentioned something that goes beyond what he talks about. I had to lead by example as a coach. So I couldn't be going in there cussing people out, doing that, crazy stuff. I had to be very professional in my approach and my appearance. I thought that was very important because of who I am and how they perceived us coming in, that they had to deal with me. That, as our wake swimmers say, oh, we're swimming on a black team. And that wasn't the case. So no, not now, Tom. We pretty much can go anywhere we want.
Yeah, I mean, I just, and I guess to further go along that with, none of us white guys or girls can really fully understand what it's like. I guess we can pretend to understand, but I guess we can't really understand ever having, been a part of that side. But, I grew up in a very diverse area, and, so personally, it never even approached me. And I'd like to think that you can honestly say to me, I never looked at you as a black coach. I looked at you as a coach.
Yeah, well, Tom, we go way back, Smooth. And,
yeah.
We go way back, and coming down there with Murray, meeting Murray first before I met the rest of you guys.
Right.
We've been treated very well down in Maryland, and that's why I would go to a Maryland meet before I would go to some Middle Atlantic meets. Just like you said.
Obviously, great to hear, but.
Yeah, because the way we were treated. I spent it in the early days, when we're getting cuts, I spend most of my time in Potomac Valley. If we look and say, well, where'd you make most of your cuts? Potomac Valley, because the way we were treated, the environment, the hotels, ease of transportation, getting in off of 95, the pools were fantastic, competition was great, and we were treated very well. We were treated very well.
Yeah, you know, I mean, and I know you know this because it might even come up in a conversation one time, either with somebody, and maybe somebody might have actually said, you know, are you having those guys here because they're a black team? And they, you know, absolutely not. I'm having them here because they're a fast team. Yeah,
yeah, and you know, what you just said is what I said to my team and my parents. You know, look, I said that to people in the media. I said, I don't want to go anywhere because people think we're some cute little black team from the neighborhood. They're going to do their community service by having us come. No. If that's your case, I'm not coming. I'm not coming. We're invited because we're going to add to the meet because of the quality of our swims. You know, we're going to add to the meet because we're a team. We want to be a part of this environment, and we're going to contribute to the environment. And we feel that's the way it's been at all your meets and all the meets that we went to out of Middle Atlantic area. We travel extensively to Jersey, too. I used to go to New York quite a bit. And that goes back to what I said in the beginning. We build a culture of success and achievement coming out of an urban environment, not with the best facilities, but our whole number one function was to be the best of the best. And we wanted people to look at us that way. I think if something was said, maybe I might have said it first to somebody, you know, and kind of broke the ice, but let them know that it might be on your mind, but you can say it to me. And that's the way I am. That's the way I was. Because I want to know everybody where I stand. I want to know where everybody else stands.
Coach Jim.
This is a last follow-up question. Was how do you feel? You know, just how do you think U.S. swimming is doing with the diversity side or you know,
that's a great question.
I guess.
It's a great question. I think, in my opinion, as I said, I got involved with USA Swimming when Ray Essex was running it, and he created an ad hoc committee for diversity. And I've seen the diversity program go from diversity to inclusion to LGBT, B, I guess that's what it is, all of them. And I told them, I said, you've gotten away from what you say your core values are as finding and swimming with the fastest swimmers. And now you come to like a social organization with the outreach and the diversity camps. I know when I was spending a lot of time out there, that's what we were doing. I think they put out an image that they're reaching out to a diverse community, but it's a very minimal effort. Because if you look at their budget off of their Make a Splash and their swimming foundation, diversity gets the smallest piece of the pie. But the pictures that you see on the news are these minority kids getting swimming lessons. Colin Jones is talking about he almost drowned, and they're doing swimming lessons, which they need to do. But we need to also look at the other end and help develop world-class swimmers and market them. If you look at their board of directors, I don't think they have a person of diversity on the board of directors. I know the meetings that I was invited to attend, that's what I saw. And if your board of directors is not a general makeup of what the country is, or even what the makeup is, they say what, 1% of the swimmers in USA Swimming are African American, 3% are others. Well, that's a small number. And there's so many other kids out here. Now, I know they're running a program in Chicago with Bob Rosseth in trying to duplicate inner city program, and I hear they have a couple hundred swimmers. We'll see if they get to the national level and swimming that fast. But right now, it's a startup program. I think they partner with someone in LA in what they're doing, the same thing. They had a program in New York, but I don't think it was too successful in New York. I think also, Tom, is that, and I've had this discussion with Mike Unger, that when Simone Manuel, take her as an example, we were following her since she was 12. She was coming up in Houston. And, but in my program, we try to find and track every African-American swimming that was in the sport, just to have that knowledge of if the sport was really growing and if we're really helping. Simone Manuel swam great. And I think, I don't have all the stats. My stat man's not with me right now, but Simone Manuel is world class. So Simone Manuel's won the 50 and the 100, I think, over the last 4 years at all the big meets that were out there. She's anchored great relays, but she doesn't get the same kind of press that Missy Franklin got when she was her age, at a young age. And, the comment to me was, oh, she'll be around for a while, we'll get it. Well, no, get it the same way you gave it to this other person. Market her, that way you'll reach out and change the dynamics of USA Swimming. So I think they could be a little bit more aggressive. Simone Manuel has gone through a lot to get where she is, and she sees it, she feels it. If she has a bad swim, then it's like she's terrible. Let a national level swimmer have a bad swim and there's an excuse. And that's based on what you hear on TV, but United States Swimming controls what Roddy Gaines and them put down on TV when they announce it. And that has an impact. It has impact because I drive my kids to watch every major meet that's on TV. And we usually watch it together if we can. So I think USA Swimming can be a little bit more aggressive. I mean, they started it. They've tried some things. They were out there. They in the diversity camp program, we got them to bring the swimmer and the coach to Colorado Springs. I felt that if the swimmer's there, you're testing them. That's the time that we were using the flume out there, Tom, and they were getting these test results, sending it home. I said, well, how do you know the coach can read that? How do you know the coach can interpret that and transfer that into improving swimming? Let's bring the coach and the swimmer out here and run parallel tracks, and then they both go home with the knowledge, more knowledge about how to swim fast, what it takes, what they need to do, what they need to change, and also expose them to an environment that Katie Ledecky gets or anybody else that goes out there to train. This type of thing will motivate them. And we did that for a while, but the clubs that were coming weren't getting kids to nationals. And that was their rationale for stop sending them to Olympic Training Center and making the diversity programs local. So they saved a little bit of money there. But I think they've tried, they scratched the surface, but they didn't dig deep enough. I think they need to dig a little deeper and not be afraid to have a discussion. It goes what Sergio was talking about. He feels a certain way, he's treated a certain way. I think that's kind of the way USA Swimming was going about it. They were walking lightly, dealing with the subject. They had a diversity person, and they felt that that was enough. But if your diversity person didn't come up in the sport, didn't experience some things, they're out there on the deck, can they really and truly come up with some programs that are going to happen? We got a lot of fast minority swimmers now that are swimming, but as I look at it, they're still coming from predominantly white teams. Again, that's why I stayed in the urban environment, because I think there's a pool of talent in our communities.
Excellent. No, it's just, again, it's hard. It's hard to understand and maybe recognize the things that you, and I guess Sergio for that matter, any minority people, how you look at what's going on versus how we look at what's going on. And I'm not saying bad or right. It's just from a different perspective, and neither of us have the same perspective or same eyesight, I guess, because of how we got here.
Yeah, you're looking through a different lens, but
right.
Like I said, when I come to North Baltimore, I come because I consider us friends, I consider us colleagues, and we're looked at that way. And you and I talk about some crazy stuff. You know,
Right.
we talk about what's happening, what's wrong, what we're going through, and but it's about. I know I'm there because we swim fast.
Right.
You know, I know that. I know I'm not there because you throwing us a crumb to come to the meet. If you ever did that, I wouldn't come. But I feel that you and I are coaches, and so we're talking on two men. One happens to be black, one happens to be white, but we're coaches, and we're dealing with the same issues. Same issues. Even when I'm not at your pool, I think we were up at Rutgers. We had an invitation up there, that holiday meet. You brought your 2 buses up there last year, you know, sitting around and talking swimming. We weren't talking issues because there were no issues to talk about
Right.
at all, except how fast this kid's swimming, how slow this kid is swimming. That were the only issues we were talking about, you know, and that was it. And being comfortable, we were comfortable.
Go ahead, Katie.
First, a comment. It's good for us as coaches to remember that everybody comes with a backstory
Yes.
and sees things through different lenses. You know, when I was a young female coach, I kind of went through some of the same things as, you know, they walk up to the male coach. You know, as a middle-aged female coach, sometimes, you know, they see the gray hair and you get dismissed. So, right. You know, that's the comment. Everybody has a different backstory. But also a question for you, Coach Jim. It seems like for your team, culture is the driving force for success. And I wanted to know whether you do classroom work or it's all through the parent and swimmer meetings, or a lot of it is on deck. Like, how do you deliver that culture to your team?
That's a good question. I can't give you percentages because I think I do it every day. I think I do it every day. Formalize parent meetings, formalize team meetings. But once I cover that, then the formalized meetings are really out of the way unless we have a serious issue that has to be discussed. Somebody dealt with something, and we brought it before the whole group, because we know especially when we travel, we're traveling as a team, and we want people to know where we're going, what we're heading into. But I think I deal with cultural issues every day, but once it's dealt with realistically, and that was a great question, because now that I'm thinking about it, once we dealt with it, cultural issues are out the way. When my kids come in, they're just wondering, like, God damn, what this practice is going to be like today. And so that took care of everything, because now everybody was holding on, trying to get through the workouts, and they became part of the team. They were all the same. When they got out, went to the locker room, they were all the same. And they were just talking about, whew, that was a tough one there. Wonder what tomorrow's going to be like. And that became the topic of the discussion. How fast they were training, who wasn't training fast that day. So I would say, like I said, formally, if the topic is there, we'll discuss it. In the beginning, when kids come to the team, we discuss it, let them know the environment they're coming into, the parents let them know the environment. And there's an adjustment for a lot of them. But after that, people are comfortable. People come in on the team, and I have a couple of people or women from Thailand, and they left another team to come to our team because I had another family that was from Thailand, and they felt very comfortable. They felt they were treated differently. Everybody was looked at equally. I didn't treat anybody differently. I don't care who you were, what. Everybody was treated equally. So they kind of felt that. And that's the discussion that I'm getting now in starting all over again in building a team. And we're pretty successful so far. Good question.
I'll piggyback on what Jim said. I think educating the parents is the number one thing. For me, for example, has always been, because I have a different way of expressing myself, coming from a different country, and the way you move your hands, the way you talk, the way you think. And so it's important always for them to understand who you are and for them to understand your background. So when they learn to accept all that and see who you are, I think then they feel at ease, and they see that you can treat everybody with respect and you treat everybody equal. So I think it's important for the parents to know who you are and see who you are. And it's a constant thing at the beginning, and then it's a natural thing. It doesn't happen that often that you have to explain just with new families. But I think it's important that they understand who you are. Doesn't matter what background you have, but that would be, something for me that I dealt with, swimmers from all over the world with different backgrounds, different colors, different upbringings. When you meet with the parents, they feel at ease when they understand who you are.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. That's why I have the parent meetings, and help people feel at ease, help them realize, what it is. And, I felt that, Sergio. I went over to the UK for about 10 days, 2 weeks. And some of the things I said in America were offensive to some things people do over in the UK when just walking the streets, going from one pool to another. And I really, that really got my attention. I was done. And I had to adapt real quick to what was good, what was right, what was wrong, along with my color, because I ran a couple of practices I wasn't expecting to. I was there just to talk about basically diversity. They were trying to get some pools built in minority communities, and I was invited over there, and it was very interesting. And just like you said, just the way you move your hands or the way you say a certain phrase or something, it was mistaken as to be something else. And I'm glad I had somebody from the UK with me, because they let me know real quick. But I think the parents are the name of the game.
Jim, when I went to Singapore and I was there for 2 years, it was a really hard learning experience, because you have a lot of Chinese over there that they have a totally different culture. And depends when you enter a meeting, if nobody has told you how you need to address people, they're going to assume certain things.
Right.
And it's really complicated. So I think and it takes 3 to 4 years to be able to change a culture, to be able for people to accept things,
Yes.
And you just have to be patient. I think, I probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most of the parents want their kids to be successful at one level or another.
Right.
What they want is to understand that the person is in front of them, if honestly and truthfully is honest, and is going to take care of them, as dysfunctional as that person can be.
Yes.
So I think if we as coaches, no matter what race or whatever it is, we really address the parents and make them our allies, our culture is going to be so much better.
Yeah, well, that's why I have parent meetings, to break that ice, to get them comfortable and let them know that. I give you one other example. I taught at a high school of international affairs. And at the time I went to this high school, we were 50% African American, and we had to be roughly 35% Asian population. It might have been more. And we had to take a class on identifying people from different ethnic backgrounds. In other words, you had to know Chinese, the difference between Chinese, Japanese. We had to know the difference between Vietnamese and Chinese. We had to know the difference between a Korean and a Vietnamese, because they found that to be very offensive if you called them Chinese, but they were Korean. They just felt that you should know. And for me, that was an enlightenment. I mean, I was enlightened tremendously on that. And it opened my eyes in dealing with situations. And I took that situation from school and used it in coaching again with my parent group, because I was getting people from different cultures. And you have to understand what is important, what do they do in their culture. And I think that makes the whole situation a better situation for you as a coach. What you say, how you say what you say to them, to get them, as Sergio says, to trust in you as the coach. You're the main character. You're the player. You drive this machine. You drive it. If you're comfortable, they'll be comfortable. If you're not comfortable, they can see that. Just like when you teach swimming lessons. I tell parents when they come around a pool, don't squeeze your kid's hand a little harder. Don't do something that I said they pick up your fear of the water and you're going to transfer that into them without doing anything else. I make that very important, especially in mother and taught classes when I used to teach those classes. Those are the things I used to do before I even got them into the pool. Our kids are smart. They pick up anything and everything. If the parents aren't comfortable, the kid's going to be uncomfortable. If the parents aren't comfortable, you're not going to get 150% out of the child, because they have to buy in. Great point, Sergio.
Thanks.
Hey, Jim, I just got a message from somebody to ask you, how many parent meetings do you hold a year?
How many months are there in a year?
All right.
It's just one a month that we have them. If we have to cancel, it's usually the first weekend in the month or the second, depends on how it lays out. It can be changed if we have a meet that gets in the way of a scheduled parent. Then I try to move it around, or maybe put it in front of the meet if it's a travel meet. But it's one a month.
Cool. Anybody else have any questions for Jim? Anna, Kimmy, Ben?
Oh, no, we good.
Okay.
All right, well.
Fantastic. I wish everybody a lot of luck and success. Swimming has been good to me. I think I've been good to swimming as well. As Tom asked the question, the faster we got, the more invitations we got, the faster we got, people looked at and treated our swimmers differently. The faster we got, officials treated us differently. And it was in a positive way. And that's the way I tend to look at life. We've had some incidences with officials, but as I said to Sergio, I travel with an entourage of parents. And we had a lot of parents who were officials, so they were on the deck. I wanted it that way, so they were up close and personal and could protect our swimmers. When I say protect our swimmers against bad calls, just reprimanding for the wrong thing, we were on point with that. And we kept that to a minimum, that kind of behavior. And your parents are important. That's another role, another reason why we had parent meetings. The parents are critical, I see, in an age group program to you being successful. And if you get them, you got them eating out of your hand. They do anything and everything for you. You can do no wrong once you sell that. You can't be afraid of them. You can't isolate them. You got to embrace them. They have my phone number. They can call me. I got 2 parents waiting for me to call them back now. They called when I was getting ready to get on this call. And they can reach out to me at any time. And we do more than swimming talk. So it is. Sergio's points were very well taken. He gets it. Tom's questions were good. Everybody, your questions were good. I appreciate it. And I appreciate it for attending. I hope I left you with something that you can take back. Let me know. You can reach out to me. I'll be glad to know, because with things that are happening now, and I've gotten a lot of phone calls, I started writing a book. So your questions help me with what I need to say in the book, because I think I've been blessed, and I've had a tough road, but it didn't seem that way. Next year will be my 50th year coaching, and
Damn, you're pretty old.
you got that right. You got that right. It's those crabs I eat when I come to Baltimore, brother. That's what it. Yeah, man, and it's been great. It's been great, and I tell USA Swimming that because Tom asked that question, and when I got a call from USA Swimming and talked about some things I felt could improve, but I also let them know that, as far as I'm concerned, and the relationship I've had with the people at USA Swimming and every CEO that's been out there, except Tim, I haven't met Tim yet, they've entertained things that I've offered up for suggestions. They've entertained some ideas. So coming from my point of view, they've given it an effort. Could they make it a bigger effort? Yeah, but they've definitely scratched the surface and made a shot at diversifying swimming, and a lot more should be coming, because I see it changing. Like I said, Simone Manuel, she's number 1 in 100 and the 50 free for the last 4 years. She's an African-American woman. That's fantastic. They need to market that. They need to say that. They need to put that out there, because there's some young black girls in some program, they're going to see that, hear that, they're going to aspire to that. And you as coaches need to stay in tune to that as well. When you're working with your kids and your swimmers, and you're talking about meetings. I think a young lady asked me about, dealing with the cultural thing. There it is with the team meetings. You bring that out. You identify swimmers that are swimming fast. Okay, and you let them know when you have kids of that nationality in your program. You let them know, I want you to aspire to this, and that, again, that breaks the ice. That makes them feel comfortable. So those are little things that can be done that are very helpful. And so I think with swimming being televised as much as it is now, there's a lot out there in the magazines, there's a lot on the internet. You can use that to help motivate and also break the ice, that cultural barrier that's out there. And that's key. Again, I agree, and I think parents are the secret. So thank you. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you being here, and hope you all have a lot of success.
Thank you.
Jim, you're a great coach, but better yet, you're a great person.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you, man. And you guys have done a good job with us, and making our parents feel comfortable down there in Baltimore. We bring a lot of workers with us too. So yeah.
Someday, hopefully, we'll all be back on the deck again for a swim meet.
You got that right.
Hey, Coach Ellis, this is Coach Brendan from Baltimore.
Yes.
I just want to say again to you, thank you for all your words today. Seeing Coach Ben and Coach Kimmy and seeing you, you are the reason that I've had some of the success. And I think to Trevor's point in terms of diversity of coaches, I would not have developed as a coach had I not had the amazing mentors in terms of you and Kimmy and Ben to learn from. And, I think one of the things that I try that I've taken from you more than anything, obviously in this time of, where are we, is just focusing on Black excellence. And when I say that in terms of that term, and I use that term and I talk about Black excellence, is, are we going to put the work in? Are we going to study? Are we going to do that grind? And that this is a sport based on results and putting the work in. And so for me, watching you, I thank you. You are an inspiration to me, and I thank you. I thank you to Kim and to Ben as well, who are on this as well, for all of your support and all of your knowledge. Because, I did need, sometimes when you do have someone does look like you, you know, you had the conversation with Sergio about you can't say anything, the crazy questions. Well, sometimes when you and I can talk, we can talk the crazy questions, and we can, you know, be a little bit more straight up because we have had those experiences. And I just want you to know how grateful I am and appreciative I am, and thank you very, very much.
Hey, you're welcome, man. And I think excellence is the key. Also, you got to demand it. You have to demand it to get where you are. I don't know where everybody is with their program and what level you coach, but from the time a kid walks in to our swim team prep program, that's where they're coming out of swim lessons and preparing to come to the swim team 2 days a week. We demand excellence. Excellence is the word that we use, and that's what we're looking for. And the other thing is, I tell people our program is not for everybody. Everybody can't do this. Everybody doesn't want to do this. You may think so. I paint the darkest picture when they come to try out. I paint the darkest picture when they come in. I give them a trial period. I said, I like your kids. I like the way they swim, but you may not like me. So I give you a week grace period, and then after that, we're off and running. Again, that's with the parents and get them to see what's going on in your program. So again, thanks, Trevor, for having me.